Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Third Intermission Podcast, aka 3IP. We're going to try out something a little bit different here. Let us know if you like it. Let us know if you hate it. But yeah, we're calling ourselves 3IP at this point. Instead of VIP, it's called 3IP. So, I mean, let us know how it is. Anyways, this is your boy Dave signing on for the evening on this beautifully cold and snowy Sunday evening here in Ontario. You can catch us on the socials at Toronto Third, both on Twitter and on Instagram and on Blue Sky as well. And you can find us wherever you normally get your podcast from. That includes Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, and our friends over at Podbean Eyes. It's a two-man show. We got a third coming through later on in the episode if he can make it. Of course, we got the right hand of the king himself, aka the Fedora Man, aka Mr. Steal Your Girl, aka the darkest man in Alberta. We got Avery Lucas McDougal. What is going on?
The darkest man in Alberta is crazy, but you know what though? Alberta winters. You know what I hate, Dave? The fact that again, it be melting out here, and your shoes are all messed up, and you're walking in the world's worst chocolate milk, messing up my fits. What that sucks. Terrible.
Don't kill me. My man's channeling the Charles Barkley out here. That's wild. That's absolutely wild. Honestly, I'm just glad we can just chill and just start talking and everything. And it is what it is. But um we got a bit of a show for you tonight. Of course, the Leaf Dem ended up getting a W against Buffalo earlier on in the day. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Scepters real quick. We're also going to talk about some news regarding the NHL and their quarter century teams, and we're going to have a nice debate about that because we're not sure who is guaning on this team and who's not guaning on this team. And there's so many variables that you have to like literally, I guess, dive into. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about Stellars being placed on the IR. And, Toronto's already hurting for goaltending. Are we going to make a trade for that? Are we not going to make a trade for that? Who knows? And then finally, of course, we are also going to talk about the fact that Florida is getting an outdoor game. Yes, you heard that correctly. The only state in the entire continental United States of America that does not get snow will be getting an outdoor hockey game. Now, I would be cussing in this situation, but I have been advised not to basically shoot my mouth off tonight. So I'm going to say less than cordial things without dropping some profanity tonight. But in any way, shape, or form right now, best believe there's at least one blood clot out there. So all I'm saying is this is gonna be some messy some messy stuff that we're gonna be talking about tonight. So without further ado, let's get into tonight's episode real quick. First things first, gonna talk about the Leaf Dem real quick. Leafs had some less than stellar performances over the past few days, of course, with Washington, with the Detroit game back on Saturday, and then of course the Leafs defeating Buffalo on Sunday. I saw all of that Buffalo game on Sunday. Um, of course, jumping out to like that 2-0 lead. Toronto was like looking like they were in dire straits for like maybe the first 5 minutes of the game. You're just sitting there wondering like, what the hell is this? Because you're not like this isn't typical Leaf hockey. This is like basically Marley's hockey at this point. Dennis Hildeby, of course, letting in two goals like within like say what the first 5-6 shots of the game. Like you're sitting there, you're about ready to just basically crash out at this point as a Leafs fan. And if you're Buffalo, you're just like, yo, we got the Leafs on the ropes. Like within the first 5 minutes, it's like, huh? Avery, did you see any of this game at all?
I I did, yes, and you're right. It was if you were a Sabres fan, this game started well, and Buffalo needs something to go their way because the Sabres right now are
They're hurting.
oh they're 0-7-3 in their 10 game skid. I'm sorry, Sabre fans. I don't know who y'all made mad in a past life after 2011, but the fact that you can't get things out of being stuck in the mud is wild to me. But yeah, we saw the Leafs battle back in a major way. John Tavares had a game. John Tavares had a game with natural hat trick, Dave.
Trust me, like Johnny T was out here being Johnny Jesus in a Leafs jersey right now. And yes, we can call him Johnny Jesus at this point. But the natural hat trick was everything. Of course, Matthews losing his hot streak against Buffalo. It was said during the broadcast that like he had what a 5 game goal streak against Buffalo, and that ended practically during this game. He only got an assist today.
Mm.
Yeah, which was absolutely weird. But at least he got himself on the score sheet. So instead of just saying, he hasn't scored, he technically got himself an assist. So it's now a 6 game point streak against Buffalo. Max Domi getting his first goal finally
Yes.
against Boston.
Yeah, I know. We saw the relief on his face, and yeah, people were waiting for that first Domi to goal, and he finally gets it, and you could just see it was like taking a 1,000 pound weight off his back when that went in.
Trust me. Nick Robertson actually getting a goal as well for the Leafs tonight.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a game in which you mentioned the guys who stepped up and scored, Tavares, but it wasn't a game in which you needed to be carried by a
Mhm.
Matthews, a Marner, a Nylander. The rest of the core stepped up in a major way. The rest of the core did their work.
I agree. I fully agree. And you know what? Toronto really did need that bounce back win. Of course, not. I guess coming up short in Detroit back on Saturday it wasn't very conducive for the Leafs to actually be able to play so abysmally and then basically show up and not get a win at home before before their next 4 game homestand, or sorry, their next 4 games. And it's like it's going to be very jam packed because their next game is on the 23rd, the 21st. I believe they have to make a road trip. They have to make a quick trip to Dallas on Wednesday, and then it's supposedly like what 4 games in 7 days, give or take.
Yeah, it's a pretty jam packed schedule for them. It's a very compact schedule.
Yeah, like we're gonna break this down real quick here. Yeah, Leafs are going to be in Dallas on Wednesday, and then they'll be in Buffalo on Friday. They'll come back home against the Islanders Saturday, and then they'll take on quite possibly one of the most powerful Jets teams in recent memory, and that's including, say, the Utah Hockey Club slash Phoenix Coyotes slash Arizona Coyotes slash Winnipeg Jets history from like back in the day. So honestly, Toronto does have their work cut out for them before the Christmas break. Um, Leafs also have a back to back coming up within the next week or two. Like it is at least like what two back to backs within a span of 2 weeks.
So they got they've got back to back where they're in Buffalo, and then they got the Islanders at home, and
Yeah,
then yeah,
that's
and then
this
they
week.
got yeah, and they got Detroit and the Capitals. That's back to back as well too.
It's like isn't that like their third? That's like their third back to back within like say the last within the last 3 weeks. So I don't know who pissed off the Leafs over at the league office, but like this is not ideal.
Yeah, they've had a few in recently. Yeah, the last back to back they had was when they played Ottawa and Washington on November 12th, November 13th.
Mm. So it's like, Toronto's not doing nothing. Let's give them three. Let's give them back-to-back games 3 weeks in a row. Be like, screw this team. It's like, are you dumb? Are you dumb right now? Like, if you're a Leafs fan right now, you're kind of losing it a little bit because you're just like, how in the hell is the schedule even fair? Because like some teams get like breaks and everything, and like Toronto is basically getting bare games left, right, and center to the point where it's like, oh, let's tire this team out and give them a little bit of adversity. It's more like,
Yeah.
let me give you a swift uppercut in this situation.
Yeah, NHL scheduling for games has been very strange. I mean, I've griped about it for a long time. I think a great example is Edmonton and Calgary don't play again until mid 2025. They played the first two games of the season back in October, no October November, and then they're not playing in them, and they're not playing Calgary again until the season's close to over. It's a very strange setup for how the NHL season is going, but that may change because Elliot Friedman pointed out how the league is trying to push forward to get back to the 84 game schedule, which was used for two seasons in the mid 90s. So
Hmm.
it sounds like what Friedman suggested in 32 Thoughts, how 84 games is coming in a couple of seasons, but but the two extra games may not mean more home games. What
Hmm.
Elliot suggested, those two extra games could be like it was back in the 90s, two neutral site games per team possibly.
Now, when we're talking neutral sites, like what are we discussing here? Because like that's something that's a little bit crazy in that situation.
The suggestion, it sounds like international markets, sound like markets outside North America.
Hmm.
So
I
yeah, it's
mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then it's like basically another waste of money in that situation. You know what I mean?
mhm. I mean, I get the logic, and it sounds like from back when, of course, for those listening who are too young to remember, back in the day, the NHL did this for two seasons in the mid '90s to test out North American markets that didn't have NHL teams, and they played neutral site games in cities like Hamilton, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Phoenix, Minneapolis, and a lot of these markets got teams. But so it sounds like it's again the NHL trying to revisit this to, if not get more teams, just build up a
Mhm.
new fan base. I know Luke Robitaille wants Lee to go back again to England for games, so I could see possibly in maybe say 2026, 2027, you have the Leafs and Habs playing in London.
That might be awesome. So I mean, I fully agree. I do fully think that like it may or may not be the best idea, but like we'll obviously see how things play out, and then we can go from there.
No, exactly. But I mean, it makes sense, and I agree with Luke Robitaille. I think England's been a market which the league kind of forgot about. I mean, the league went there quite a bit in the mid 2000s with preseason games. I remember the Bruins played the Belfast Giants in '09, so they have a history of going over to the UK, and they should
Mhm.
certainly go. And that's a market that they certainly should get back to because I have no problem with them showing love to Scandinavia, which they do a lot with these neutral site games. I have no problem doing that. But I think I've said before, go back to the markets that are a little bit different because we've seen NHL go to England. We've seen the NHL before COVID. Before COVID, the NHL had games in China when the Bruins played Calgary in China.
Those games were a lot of fun, actually. So, in all honesty, like I cannot wait to see. I cannot wait to see what the NHL has in store. But also at the same point in time, like you know what, you've got to find I guess, neutral sites that actually do work, not only for, say, the league, but also for, say, the fans involved as well. Because essentially speaking, like, yes, you do have your international fans that unfortunately have to wake up at like 4 in the morning to actually see their favorite hockey team. So like now that they're here overseas, it's like, okay, can we actually see a game at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon or like 1 in the morning? Kind of
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
how it was during the during the China games, during the Sweden games, during the Finland games as well, or like say like during the Czechia games. Excuse me, that was
yeah,
about the Czech Republic. But
yeah, no,
ideally,
so
like it is something to think about either way. Um, you never know what could happen. Um, it's going to be very interesting to see moving forward.
oh, absolutely.
All right, so uh, I'm not sure if the Sectors actually ended up playing this week. So let me take a look into that as well really quickly. Hold up a sec, folks. Like this is something we should have had on deck for y'all, but like it is what it is at this point. Let's take a look and see what the schedule is like for our lovely ladies over at Coca-Cola Coliseum real quick, and if we can actually get this thing to pop up really quick, really quickly too. All right. So it looks like their next game won't be until December the 18th the when they take on New York. So that's going to be very interesting in itself. Yes, the New York Sirens, excuse me. Um, haven't heard much from the Scepters since the 7th when they had their home run.
Well, they played two more games since, and right now they are 1-1-0-0-2, three
Yeah.
points, and right now they're in fifth place and they're in fifth in the P-Dub standings. And and there, of course, there's early log jam. Not much separation right now. Minnesota in first. The Frost looking like a really good, well-oiled machine right now, leading the league in goals, 11 goals for. So right now, Toronto, they're in a little bit of a log jam at the bottom of the P-Dub standings. But again, it's early. Everybody's only played 3 games, so no need to panic just yet when it comes to the Scepters.
Yes, no one needs to go into crack everybody's skulls open and rip the feast on the goo inside. So trust me. Yo,
What do you think Torontonians are? What do you think Torontonians are, Dave?
again, I'm not saying anything. All I'm just saying is that, like, pull up a old Simpsons reference, like if you can actually catch the reference. It came on Disney Plus.
See, you know what? See, I gotta give you a hard time. That's the thing. I need to give you a hard time. That's my job on this show.
Nah, man, that's just wild. It is what it is at this point. So,
Hmm. But yeah, but looking at, but watching the league here again, I would not be surprised if we see Minnesota back in the Walter Cup again. That is a solid team in the P Dub.
mhm.
And
Like
yeah.
obviously in true Toronto fashion, of course, Toronto blew a 2-0 series lead, and then just kind of fell apart the way it did. So
What were people saying last year about this about the Scepters when they were still PWHL Toronto?
yeah,
Now you're a real Toronto team. You're blowing
exactly.
leads.
That was insane in itself. Like, how is this even happening right now? Especially as like a Toronto hockey fan. Like you'd think it would not happen, like considering that like this was their best option in the situation. And then all of a sudden it's just like you flatline just like that. You're just like, are you kidding me right now?
Oh, that was very funny. And when it comes to the scoring, I've said it before. New York is gonna turn things around this year, and
Mhm.
the league scores for New York are all sirens. The league scores, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's sirens. It's Sarah Fillier, Alex Carpenter, Jesse Elridge. It's Mika Zandy Hart. The sirens are here. New York is out here taking names when it comes to league scoring.
They really are at this point. And you know what? Like, I mean, sky's the limit. But again, it has only been 3 games. You can't really sit there and say, oh, the Sirens are going to take over, the Frost are going to take over. It's like, yo, it's a very small sample size right now.
Oh, it's small, but I said before in the show. I like the fact that Sarah Fillier is coming in year one as a pro, and she has not looked out of place at all in pro hockey.
I mean, I would like to see another Scepters game. Hopefully, you know what, like things do work out things do work out. And, maybe as a crew we can actually catch a Scepters game because like although tickets are like dirt cheap, like most of the games have been sold out. So like, let's see if we can get our hands on one. Or hands on a few seats. You never know. So
Mm-hmm. Hey man, the demand is high, and look who's in the building now, Mr. Troy himself.
yes, Coach Troy is in the building. Troy, wagwan.
Not too much. What's happening, fellas? How you doing? Is
Yeah,
everybody evening?
dealing with the snow. Avery's dealing with the cold and the snow. Just typical Canadian things.
Yeah, sounds about right for this time of year.
you
Yo,
know,
you know,
we need to
oh,
ask you. We need to ask the. Well, actually, I need to ask the both of you first. And
yes.
get your Christmas shopping done.
Have not started. Will not start until the next paycheck hits my bank.
So in other words, Friday.
Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, Thursday. All right. Avery, what about you?
Yo, here's the good thing with that with Christmas shopping on my end. The people who I know I did gifts for, all they want are gift cards. They're easy. So they asked me, yo, I asked them, yo, what store you want a gift card from? Go on there, get the online gift card, boom, boom, an email, done. Takes 10 minutes.
Right. So, I mean, I take my gift cards in a WrestleMania seat. That's all I'm gonna say. So,
Yo, it's not yo, listeners. Word, they want to spoil this, but Dave Barnett's got a box. He's got a box in WrestleMania in Vegas. So if you want to go chill with Dave in April WrestleMania,
are you dumb?
go
Yo,
go to the Dave Barnett suite in the Legion
that's
Stadium.
wild.
Beside,
That's wild.
it's
Yo,
beside the Mark Davis suite.
that's craziness right there. Oh my goodness. All right. I can never have a dull moment on this show. Just that's just insane. All right. Anyways, going back to things here. Of course, we were talking about the Leaf Dem obviously winning earlier on Sunday, defeating the Buffalo Sabres, and we were also just talking about the Scepters real quick before you got on, Troy. Were you able to catch any of that Buffalo game?
I caught the last maybe 5 or 6 minutes of. Actually, no, sorry. I started watching for maybe like half of the second period onwards. It looked like a pretty. It looked like a pretty. Sorry, I was just checking. I thought my mic was. No, it looked like it was a pretty decent game. Um, Buffalo did kind of have us on our heels a little bit, but the pushback was nice. Tavares, he played one hell of a game. Like he seems to play like a man with the weight of the captaincy off his shoulder, knowing that he doesn't have to answer really to anybody, like for his performance and stuff like that. He doesn't necessarily have to be in front of the media. I feel like that pressure's been lifted, and he had some nice moves himself in the third there. But Devin Levi,
Those dangles were nice.
yes, those are nice. And we also got to see Hildeby try to score a goal too, which was actually pretty nice.
Yo, who was the way who basically caught it at center ice, man? Like, I want to give him a box right now too.
Right? Like, move out of the way. You're already losing, so it doesn't matter at this point.
Yo, the worst part about it was like Cousins actually losing his mind during that Tavares goal too, because like he was just losing it for no particular reason, and it was just like, why? Why would you do that?
He said it was because he didn't think the puck was properly dropped for the face-off. That's what he was bitching about all the way down the ice. But it's like at this point, just let it go. It doesn't matter. He's not going to stop the play 30 seconds after the puck's been dropped just because you're unhappy with it. Just fucking deal with
Right?
it. If you got a problem with that bad, score a goal, then you can have a puck drop at center right.
Well, I mean, it is what it is at this point, man. I mean, just hold the L and take your 10th loss in the last 10 games. So it is what it is at this point. Either way. On a semi-related note, though, we did lose Anthony Stolarz to an injury, and he has been placed on IR. He has been placed on the IR. Stolarz has been down since I believe the Capitals game. Avery, correct me if I'm wrong.
Whatever the last game was, he left at the end of the first, and Wall came in from the second and played on.
Oh no, sorry, it wasn't the Capitals game. It was the Anaheim game on Thursday. Yeah, like he left in the second period, didn't come back. Um, so like in all essence, it's like you lose one of your best goaltenders at like at this
Mhm.
stage. It looks like he's gone for say an extended period of time. Could be like say at least 2-3 weeks.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll.
the IR report said something like he's got to sit for a few days. Said
Mhm.
something like he might be because he's day to day or something like that because he got to sit so long. I think they said he'd be ready for Friday, like he's
Mhm.
talking on Friday, but it all depends on how he reacts to like treatment and stuff like that too, right? So
Yeah. So ideally speaking, like Toronto is going to be short another goaltender for a while. It's just the injury woes continue because like we just got McMahon back. We just got Matthews back like not even a few games ago. Uh, Max Domi's back in the lineup finally. And now it's like we got another injury to deal with. And you're just like, are you kidding me in this situation?
Is
And
it
again,
bad to
that's
say I didn't notice Max Domi not being in the lineup?
Like, wild. But Avery,
Like
you were gonna
honestly, I didn't even notice. Like he's such a non factor for me sometimes. And like it, even when he does play, it's like other than I know he scored a goal tonight, but like when he does play, it's like where are you? Like no, nobody's talking about you. Like what's going on?
trust. Avery, you did want to say something before Troy cut you off.
yeah, I was just gonna say again, losing Stolar, that's a tough loss because again, we talked about how he's played in net. He had a 9.952 record, one of the better save percentages in the league at 9.27, and again, his goals against average 215. He was looking like the guy who could potentially pull away and be the number one netminder. So that's tough to go down when he was in his groove in net.
Hmm. Well, ideally speaking, like we do wish Anthony all the best in his recovery, and like hopefully he can get himself at least back to playing shape before Christmas. And if not, then it is going to be an interesting situation not only for the Leafs, but just for the league in general, because it's like Toronto happens to be one of the top teams in the league right now. And obviously Winnipeg would like to enter the chat in the situation and be like, hey, listen, top your noise right now. But at the same point in time, like Toronto has gotten where they needed to be because of, like, say, the great goaltending between Joseph Wall and Anthony Stolarz as it is alone. And if, say, Toronto can find a way to maintain their very slim stranglehold on what they are on their very slim stranglehold on the Atlantic right now, like they're going to have to find another way to dig deep in this situation, and that's and unfortunately, gold them losing Stellaris for like what maybe just 2 3 games, it still creates a problem. Ideally speaking, though, if Toronto can come out unscathed, then I do see this as nothing more than just say a pebble in the road, and you can just run it right over with your car. But I don't see this as a speed bump or anything, at least not yet. But I don't know. What do you guys think in this
I
scenario?
I agree with the Pebble thing. It's not a big pothole in the road like you're driving down Dufferin. You know, um, I think for the first time in a long time, we can honestly say that the Leafs are actually pretty solid at the goaltending position. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like, I'm not overly worried about going on any kind of lengthy losing streak because of our goaltending. Um, we should enjoy the riches while we can, because in my opinion, we haven't had this level of competent goaltending since Ed
Mm-hmm.
Belfour left, and that's a long time ago, and that's a lot of different goalies since. So I mean,
That's
like
true
that's
because like we
that's saying something.
hospital back in the day, we had Andrew Raycroft of all names. We had Tuukka Rask in our system, and we let him go to Boston, and he basically won a ring sitting on the bench. Who else did we have? We had Justin Pogge. We had we had James Reimer, Optimus Prime, aka Optimus in Christ. Uh, no, that's a terrible nickname. Genuinely terrible nickname. Um, who else
The
did we have?
one the one pick that drives me nuts is that Wendell Clark trade from way back when we sent him to I think we were acquiring him back from Long Island, and we
Mhm.
sent a pick there, and that pick ended up being Roberto fucking Luongo. That pisses me off to this day.
Listen, Toronto has had a bad
Get
history
that?
of losing picks left, right, and center, and I'm probably sure Avery can cover all of that referencing alone.
It is it is funny how you guys. It's funny how we mentioned the Wendell Clark era, Troy. It's funny how Wendell Clark had like 803 stints as Maple Leaf after being traded or signing elsewhere.
Like that's
He's,
absolute crazy.
he's like the dog that gets lost when you move, but still finds its way home.
Wasn't Doug Gilmore like that too?
Yeah, yes, he was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He went for a tour around the league, and then came back to Toronto. And I think he played, what was it, 4 minutes and 26 seconds
Of the
before his.
Calgary game? Yo, that was a piss off in itself.
yeah, where he tore his ACL in his one game back in Toronto.
Yo, it wasn't even it was a soft hit too. My man literally basically lost his knee off of a soft hit, and then like yo, his career was done.
Like that, yeah, that literally was his last moment as active player, getting his knee taken out. That was literally his last moment as an NHL player.
Oh man, that hurt my soul as it was. And it's like we've had so many different names literally just drop in and drop out of nowhere. And it's like the fact that we had like a guy named Jeff Finger and Jamal Mayers and the list can go on and on. The fact that we
Right.
lost Sundin to Vancouver and the homeboy had like a movie style ending in Toronto as a Canuck. Like it was beautiful, but it was also a piss off as a Leafs fan because it's like you want Mats to win, but Toronto needs to win too. Like why?
It it's funny. I remember I watched a game on YouTube for an article on Hockey News. I did an article on Hockey News about players returning to the market they were most known in, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I watched the footage again. Yeah, Matt Sundin as Canuck winning the shootout for Vancouver, and it's the most conflicted cheering in the crowd I've heard in my life. Where half the crowd wants to boo, half the crowd wants to cheer.
It was kind of the same way with the Raptors playing game against Chicago a couple years back. Whereas like everyone was so happy that like DeRozan was going through, but everyone was pissed at the Raptors for like letting DeMar's daughter like basically scream her way into everybody's head, especially at the free throw line. Oh, trust me, that was terrible. A lot of a lot of redeeming moments in Toronto, but not for Toronto. You know, hurts, hurts a lot. All right, let's move on real quick because like I'm about to get pissed and then I'm about to start cussing and I because like if I
I
start cussing like it's not gonna be pretty today.
I'm just feeling they just simmering on these moments. Just I just can see the steam starting to rise upon out this man's head.
Right? Trust me. Nah, man. The volcano is about to erupt one time, guys. Trust me. Anyways, um, let's shift gears real quick. And obviously, speaking of Matt Sundin and Roberto Luongo, the NHL is looking to release a quarter century team as of 2025. Now, there is a lot that may need to go into this particular situation because there are a significant amount of names that have been in the NHL since January 1st of 2000 that needs to be on this team. And I don't know if you can legitimately say consolidate the entire list of great players to like 25 names because I know of at least 50 that actually belong on that list. But I feel like this is a very cool thing to have, but at the same time, this is a very dangerous thing to have because it's like obviously you're not ranking them 1 through 25, but you have 25 of the best players in the game over the last 25 years, and you're just wondering like, okay, who belongs on this list? You know what I mean? So I feel like we do need to discuss this just a touch here because it's like, what are the variables that the NHL is really gonna like dive into in this situation? And Avery, I'm gonna let you kick this off real quick.
Yeah, so determining a team again, that's a very tough thing in terms of how you're gonna rank it. How you're gonna rank players? How you're gonna So I found out they actually will have a top 25 list as well as a team, but it's gonna be tough to make a team of that many players. I think you're gonna vary. I think the variable's gonna consider obviously points, accolades, championships. But there's a lot of guys who fit into that category. Like I think I'm just trying to think. Slam dunk names have to be guys like a Dominic Hasek, Sidney
Hmm.
Crosby,
Hmm.
Ovi,
Hmm.
Connor McDavid, obviously. But
For
when
sure.
when you get deeper into that list, it's gonna be tougher when you think about who is gonna be the cutoff. Like, what's your cutoff line? Like, obviously, again, guys like Jerome McGinley, Fiend Cavalier, those got to be in that list somehow.
Marty
But
St. Louis, for example, like, or even a
yep,
Matt Sundin,
mm-hmm.
or heaven forbid, like a Michael Pekka. No, I don't even know if Michael Pekka would be on that list, but like you still have to consider his name in that situation.
He
Hendrik
would.
Lund, like,
Hank for sure. Hank, absolutely. You gotta have Hank in there somewhere. But I think Pekka's probably he's probably for sure on the Sabres quarter century team. I'm sure he'd be in the all time league team for sure. For sure, I would
mhm,
put him on the Sabres all time team.
yeah,
But or sorry, quarter century team for Buffalo. But yeah, like the goaltending alone is gonna be tough to decide. Like, what goaltender do you leave off? That's gonna be a real challenge.
exactly. Because like you have so many great goaltenders in Chris Osgood, Patrick Waugh. Who else would literally be on that list? Ed Belfour, uh,
Martin Brodeur.
biggest one of all of them, even though he slept with his sister-in-law, and basically, that was a whole that was a
Uncle
whole.
Yo, this man brought up Uncle Daddy again. Oh, that Lord, yo, don't get. You know what? You know what? That not my business. That them people business. That them people business. That's not my business, Uncle Dad. That was their lives. Yo, what happened. That's not my life.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Um, what else was there? You also got to look at defensemen too. You got to look at Chris Pronger. You
Oh
also have
yeah,
Al McInnes.
Nick
Uh,
Lindstrom.
oh man, the list can go on and on and on. And then of course it's like you're gonna have all the Montreal fans saying like, okay, what about Saku Koivu, literally being on that list, or PK Subban? I don't even know if PK can actually be on that list, considering he retired like what, not even 2 years ago, two,
I
3 years.
think I think he's gonna first. I think he's certainly go ahead, Troy. Go ahead.
No, I think Subban would still qualify. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter how recently you've retired. I mean, I'm sure you're going to have active players still on this list. So, I mean, why
For
not?
sure.
Like, this isn't a list for the Hockey Hall of Fame where you're required to be non-playing for X amount of time before you're considered. This is
Yeah.
just team on paper.
But
Mhm.
then again, it's like the NBA 75 list, like literally from a couple years ago, or no, from like say 4 or 3, 4 years ago, where like say a number of names were actually left off that list, and there were certain names that got on there that did not deserve it.
Who made that list? ESPN, right?
Yeah, I think.
It was a lot of people. It was yeah. It was ESPN. It was alumni code. There was a lot of people who had a hand in the NBA 75 list. So
Yo, this is actually gonna bother me for just a second. Because like that whole anniversary team, like yo, there were only a certain amount of people who
no matter
did, did not deserve to be on that team and were on that team regardless.
no matter what name they pick or no matter what name they leave off, there's always going to be somebody unhappy.
of course.
No, that's true. That's genuinely true. But like of course, you're gonna have at least a number of Montreal Canadiens fans pissed, and rightfully so. Like I mean, again, PK Subban would probably be deservedly on that list as like one of the best defensemen in the game outside of Eric Carlson.
Oh yeah. I think both guys. I think both guys are gonna be in consideration for this team. I think both guys are gonna get a fair look to be on this all century quarter century team.
Yeah. Right now, what is the one name you're probably thinking that won't make it on this list?
Ooh, ooh, that's a good one. That's a great someone who I someone who I think should at least get. I don't know if he's gonna make it, but should get slight consideration for maybe the second team is Doug Waite. Doug Wade is one of the greatest American forwards. I think his tenure got lost because of the markets he played in, and because
Mhm.
at times he wasn't the main guy depending on where he was. Again, playing in Edmonton, St. Louis, Carolina. But I
Mhm.
do think that Doug Wade should get some consideration for the fact that he did do a lot of heavy lifting in the 2000s for teams that were not juggernauts.
I think also within that same argument, you probably have to put Ryan Smith on that list too.
Right? He I think Ryan Smith is a lock for the Edmonton quarter century team. I don't
Mhm.
know if league wide the feeling the same way for Ryan Smith. I think Doug Waite's got a better chance because Doug Waite still with I think Doug Waite actually he was still a 60 point guy. He was still delivering with St. Louis. I know his big years were in Edmonton, but he was still a quality forward. But I think he'll get slight consideration for the second team, not the first team for sure, not the first team, but I think he'll get some slight for the second team, maybe. But yeah, I don't see Doug White getting on though, but he'll get slight consideration, I do think.
Troy, what do you think?
Hmm. And we're going for names that are getting left off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
other than potentially Austin Matthews, because I know for a fact that like he's probably going to be left off this list.
there's no way he's being left off. They're gonna find a way. Like I think Matthews is second. I think second team. I think he's a wild card. I could see him being one of the last guys named. I think
So
both
wait,
him.
hold on. So there's a first team and a second team.
Yes.
Okay.
I,
So
I think Matthews makes this. A name that potentially gets left off. I'm thinking maybe Ryan Getzlaf or Rick
ooh
Nash.
Ooh.
Nat. I don't. Ooh.
Maybe even Mike McDaniel, if he would still count.
Yeah,
No,
Madonna would count.
Madonna would definitely still count. Same with Brett Hull for that matter.
Brett Hull, Ronick,
Luke Robitaille.
Yeah,
yeah,
don't.
he's well,
Hall's a good one because Hall's best years came in the 90s. Hall's prime was the 90s. That's a good point. That's a really good
and
point. I don't,
what do you do with a name like Solani and Korea? What about the Niedermeyer brothers? Where do they fall?
oh,
Exactly. And then you also have Eiserman and Shanahan as well, even though like they retired like what, say 2005?
no,
Yeah,
Shiny retired in 2011.
Oh, okay, even better. And
No,
then
no,
Eiserman not too far after, right?
Osmond's was 06, so Shani had some more years after. Because remember, Shani had his years. He after Detroit, he went to New York, and then he went to the Devils briefly.
Yeah. Nicholas Cronwall as well.
Cromwell, yeah. I think he's I think he's a maybe for the course entry team for Detroit. Maybe not the league one, but I think for sure he gets to look for Detroit's all time or course entry team.
speaking of
Would you
Detroit,
also say Daniel Alfredson? As much as I hate saying that name.
Yeah, you know who I think is gonna be there's two. Here's one name that I here's a name another name I wonder how he's gonna be perceived. And here's a guy who I think deserves a lot more respect is Ilya Kovalchuk.
Oh man. Like I don't know how controversial that one's gonna be considering like Homeboy had literally gotten himself into some very, very deep shit with the NHL back in the day.
Yeah, with the whole the contract thing, that is, you know what? I think GMs and the teams can look past. I would hope so. I hope they will look past the contract stuff, the 15-year deal nonsense, or sorry, 17-year deal. I would hope you could look past that whole drama to give him his due because Kovalchuk was still a 50 goal guy multiple times, 40 goals multiple times. He deserves. I would argue Ilya Kovalchuk should be on the first team for the course entry team.
No, I agree. Um, Here's the other question that I need to ask. Is there going to be an Atlanta Thrashers quarter century team, even though they only existed for like for less than 10 seasons?
So I did look into this actually, gang. So I believe it was I believe it came up, and so it sounds like they're going to combine Winnipeg with Atlanta, if I'm correct in that.
Really?
Yes.
That's insane.
I mean, it makes sense because I understand that the NHL isn't going to separate the histories of the Thrashers and Jets 2.0. They're gonna keep it all as one entity because legally it is one thing still. So I get that, but that's gonna stick in people's cross for a little bit. So yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm not sure if they're gonna combine all of Jets 1.0, 1.2 in Atlanta, but there is gonna be a Jets team combined with the Thrashers in this list.
And then, of course, you're also going to see if there's a Phoenix Coyotes, Arizona Coyotes list as well. But they'll
Yes, there will
probably
be. Yeah, there will be.
are they going to get meshed in with Utah, or it's going to be completely separate?
Now, here's a funny thing. No word of a lie. They are, and this to me makes no sense. They're gonna have two separate teams of Arizona and Utah. Now, for legality's sake, I understand why. Because legally, Utah and Arizona are two entities. The Arizona IP, what is Arizona, is remaining in Arizona. Legally, Utah is an expansion team for all intents and purposes. But for convenience, for logic, we don't need a separate Arizona and Utah team.
Hmm. No, I fully agree. And Troy, to answer your question, that Pavel Datsuk and Henrik Zetterberg, I feel like if you leave these two off the list, it's a crime at this point. A
I think
genuine.
that. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I think it's a genuine crime that both of them either get left off the first or the second team because two twos. It's like you can't leave off two of the best European players within the last say 10, 15 years, bar none.
Mm,
Like you also have to look into Patrick Kane and Jonathan Tays.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
just given their nonsense with the whole Chicago scandal, like that in itself, that's still worth mentioning in the situation.
Yeah.
Uh,
And yeah, and right there, all the names we've gone through, again, all those names we've gone through considered, who gets left off, who makes it, who like that. There's I don't envy the people who are in charge of saying, okay, you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off. Because that there's gonna be, like Troy said, there's gonna be some names who won't make it. We're gonna have our debates. This is garbage. Da, 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 da. It's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, there's only so few spots. You can't put everybody on this list. You have to make some tough decisions.
exactly, but it's like you have to make some very independent choices, and you can't just make some biased choices too, because like obviously there are going to be a number of players like say Andrew Brunette who who deservedly want should be on like one of these lists, but it'll more than likely be that he'll be on like say Minnesota's quarter century team.
Yeah,
Uh,
like they're Minnesota's for sure.
yeah. Then, of course, you also have Joe Sakic. You also have Milan Hajduk. You also have Alex Tanguay. You also have Peter Forsberg as well on that list, like on Colorado's list. Like, which one of these guys gets added onto the quarter century team? Then you also have a you have a whole roster of players that you have to worry about in this situation.
Yeah,
And at which
it's
point do you say, like, who gets on, who gets off at this rate? Like, Florida barely has anybody outside of the Kachuk brothers and maybe Sam Reinhart. Um,
mm, Florida. Well, I think Bure. Well, I could see
Pavel
Florida.
Bure, but like Pavel Bure was like more of a '90s player than a 2000s player.
He had a couple of, well, for Florida's sake, he was there in 2000 work briefly, but so yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, so just to clarify, so in case you were confused, so it isn't the full proper roster
Mhm.
of for the first team and second team. The first team and second team is going to consist of each three forwards, two D-men, one goalie. So that's where, and even that pairs it down even more, because if you have to say, okay, here's your five for the first team, here's your five for the second team. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You're gonna get some big names not making this for the league team.
Example, Alexander McGillney, Sergei Fedorov. Like we can't say Maxim Afinogenov though, man. Like that's just too stupid at this point. But ideally speaking, like this is going to be this is going to be a real tongue twister in this is going to be a real tornado of a situation because it's like who gets left off, who gets left on. It's like, okay, are we going to have a non-Stanley Cup are we going to have a non-Stanley Cup winner on this as well? Or like are we just going to have guys who have basically actually won a ring on this list? And then on top of that, it's like, okay, like what goaltenders outside of Patrick Waugh can literally be on this list? You know what I mean? There's so many variables in this situation.
Yeah, and actually, let me amend that again. So yeah, so each team can only have the first team and second team. So yeah, so it's each team as well as the league team is only going to be about the 10 players each. So yeah, it's going to be for the team and league some really hard cuts to make. But yeah, and I think I now and yeah, the more I think about it now, when you talk about only 10 guys on the Core Century League team, yeah, I don't think Doug Weight gets on there at all. But yeah, the oldest team for sure. The League One, no. But yeah, again, there's gonna be Twitter threads for days debating who made, who didn't make it when it drops.
For real, like again, this is kind of like say, and like just to relate this to Black culture for a second here, it's like what's the greatest chicken spot of all time, right? Because it's like you can't really just sit there and say and like yo, if you're black, like you can't sit there and say KFC is the goated piece of fried chicken. And I'm pretty sure all of us know this at this point, at one point or another. Because it's like now you got Popeyes in the mix, now you got Churches in the mix, now you got bare chicken spots left, right, and center, and then you got like all these random chicken spots. But like again, like it's kind of like the fried chicken debate right now. It's like yo, you have a hood debate of like who's actually getting on this team, and it's like I feel like yo, we actually need to like sit down, have a whiteboard, and come up with like a whole whack load of names as to like who makes this list. Because like I'm pretty sure like if we got like say Tic Tac Tomar and Julian back on the show, and maybe have another brother here and there, you know, we dive in and see if we can find out like yo who is actually belonging on this list. And then on top, it's like, do we have a black player on this list too?
Oh,
Because it's like there are some high level black players on there too. Because it's like Anson Carter, Kevin Weeks, Jerome McGinley, PK Subban, do we involve Quentin Byfield in this situation?
I would say realistically, if you're talking about the quarter century teams for either club or the league, I think there's probably only, I'd honestly say 2 or 3 names who actually can be in real consideration. I would say one of them is for sure Jerome McGinley. For sure, Jerome McGinley, he's either gonna be in the League One or the Flames one. And I think the second one is going to be PK. Those are the two who I think are the confirmed going to be on the all-time team list when it comes to the quarter century list. And then you mentioned Anson. I think Anson played on too many. I think Anson was too much of a journeyman to be on anyone's quarter century team. That's how I see. I think if Anson.
What about Joel situation though?
Joel, again, too many different teams. That's like that's one thing for these kind of lists. Being a journeyman doesn't really help you being in these kind of lists.
Exactly. It's like being kicked out from one house and then going to somebody else's house and then staying there for like 2 days and then being kicked out of that house and then going to a next man's house. You know what I mean?
Yo, I know whose story you be telling. I don't know who business.
This is what it sounds like. It's not Tango. It's not Thing.
Yo, I don't know whoever Dave's story you tell him about. Yo, I feel bad for you. Someone get put out the house. I didn't know what messiness Dave was trying to correlate to hockey, but yo,
Listen, I'm just kissing my teeth in this situation. All types of stupidness. All types of stupidness on every level right now. But in any event.
Yes.
we are going to definitely take a look into this. When did they say they were going to release this list? Like say January?
So 1 second. Oh, hang on. Let me just pull it up here. So it's a multi-phase celebration. So the club teams, the quarter century team for each club, is going to be announced starting on December 30th. So the first team to go for the club announcement will be St. Louis. They'll announce their first and second team, We the Blues. And
Hmm.
then from every day on going forward until January 31st, every team will name theirs. So starting with St. Louis on December 30th and ending on January 31st with Utah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And those are club teams. And then
Wait, why did they start with St. Louis first? Why not just go with the original six first?
I think it's because of the Winter Classic. That's why.
Oh,
Winter
okay.
Classic, St. Louis, Chicago, Winter Classic. So yeah, the first two are St. Louis, Chicago on December 30th, New Year's Eve. Chicago does theirs, and then yeah, then it goes down. Yeah, the order is kind of weird. The order, yeah, it goes St. Louis, Chicago. That makes sense. Those two first because Winter Classic, and then
Hmm.
it goes. So then it goes Arizona, Columbus, Florida, Toronto, Anaheim, Seattle.
Toronto's at the top of the list instead of the bottom of the list.
It's a weird order. It's a very strange order. The
Yo,
order makes
this
no
sounds like,
sense.
sounds like George Peros actually did this list just for the hell of it.
Yeah, I'll just briefly run through the rest of the order here. Yeah, Florida, Toronto, Anaheim, Seattle, Mini, LA, Pittsburgh, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vegas, Philly, Boston, Buffalo, Dallas, Carolina, Washington, Montreal, Colorado, Vancouver, New Jersey, Detroit, the Islanders, Ottawa, the Rangers, San Jose, Tampa, Nashville, Edmonton, Utah. This order is so strange.
It completely is. And you know what? Like there are certain teams who should not be on this list right now, only for the simple fact that two out of the 32 teams that we have barely have 5 years of playing experience. Like that's insane in itself.
Like,
Like I mean, the Utah situation, Utah should not be considered at least an afterthought in this situation because it's like technically speaking, it should be Winnipeg slash Phoenix slash Arizona in this situation, and then it should be Atlanta, Winnipeg in the other situation. Utah should not be involved in in this at all.
like I don't. You're gonna duplicate virtually. I don't understand. You're gonna have a lot of duplicates from, or at least some it's weird. I don't understand why a team that's played for less than half of a year gets to be involved in this list. I know quarter century, but it's a strange one as
I
to why,
mean,
for simplicity's sake,
quarter
Utah wins.
century or like quarter century at this point, maybe because it's like if you have like less than 7 years of service, then like yeah, like obviously it's still up for debate in that situation. But even then, like Vegas would be the only team that qualifies in that, I guess, in that realm.
Yeah,
But
and it's it's a weird, yeah. You mentioned Dave. Yeah, Seattle's a weird one too because Seattle hasn't
oh,
been
yes,
here.
that's right. I forgot about them too.
Yeah, like Vegas. Yeah, Vegas just meets the barrier for what tree entry. But yeah, Seattle and Utah. It's like, I don't know. That's too soon to really include them on quarter century club team lists. Little too soon.
Exactly.
I'm
Like Seattle's best player right now is either Jared McCann or Jordan Eberle.
Yeah, go ahead, Troy.
I'm gonna lean with Dave on this one. I don't think Utah should be included in this exercise. If I can take it one step further, I'm gonna say any expansion team that really wasn't around in the last 25 years, give or take. I would say probably in like the last 10 to 15 years. I mean, yes, you might have some players still on your team, whether they're playing or part of your coaching staff. But I think if you're strictly looking at it from a player standpoint, I don't really know if expansion teams should qualify simply because you are getting players from everybody else. Like you're getting everybody's left. So I don't really know if expansion teams should count in this paper exercise.
Mm, I I would say Dave's timeline makes sense because at least 6 7 years you can establish a level of history. You can establish a level of success. I think it's very very fresh because what have you established right now? I mean, yes, you got a team, but you haven't really established much in terms of history when it comes to Utah. Same for the Kraken. If the Kraken began play at the same time as Vegas, then sure, totally. But I think it's a little soon right now to include Seattle. I mean, if we want to do again, if we do this list again when the NHL turns 125, absolutely include Seattle and Utah because they've been here for enough time to have a proper history in place with these franchises.
Yeah. Ideally speaking, though, this is a little bit of a messy situation because it's like this is like I said, this is like the NBA 75 all over again. And like say there are a number of players who were definitively left off that list. For example, Dwight Howard was definitely one of the best centers of all time. And I genuinely hate saying that about him, but he did not deserve to Kyrie Irving, one of I like despite his image, one of the best point guards out there, left was on the list, but then he got taken off due to his I guess his anti-Jewish comments.
No, he wasn't taken off the list. No one was taken off.
He wasn't taken off the list.
No, no one was taken off. No, he's still on that list. Or sorry, hang on. Yeah, hang on. I think was he named NBA 75? I don't think he was named
He
at
was
all.
supposed to be named NBA 75, but like I think Brooklyn took him off because of like no, Brooklyn took him off prematurely, because they announced him prematurely, and then on top of that, it was like they had to take him off due to his comments about, say, a certain movie that a certain religious group was not happy about, and then of course Nike basically telling him to go kick rocks. So
Oh, like, yeah, no, that happened after the list. Yeah, no, that happened after the NBA 75 list. That wasn't.
yeah, but like they had to pull him off because of that, though. That's the thing.
I
Two twos, it's like technically speaking, like he couldn't be on that list
are you?
regardless.
Oh, yeah, okay. Hang on. Whoops. Hang on. Each. Pause for a second. Until we know for sure, let's
Yeah.
not go with that because we don't want. Yeah, that's actual gray area. So
No,
yeah,
I know it's a
yeah,
gray area. That's why I
yeah.
said like
No.
a certain group over a certain movie,
You
which
know,
I'm
no,
not.
yeah, I'm saying right now, like, just, yeah, because we don't want, yeah, no, this, yeah, I'm just saying right now, cut this part, yeah, no, we don't, this actually could get us into a bit of, yeah,
A
no,
bit
like,
of
we don't want to offend certain people, like, this could actually be, yeah, this is where, yeah, no, until, like, yeah, this thing where we need to know for sure, like, this topic in particular, we need to know
Mhm.
for sure, yeah,
Hold
we
on.
shouldn't, yeah,
Let me just make sure.
but,
I
because,
I know
yeah,
we're
no.
still recording right now. Let me just make sure like this because it looks like he was originally on the list, but like he like he was actually removed from the list due to his vaccination status actually.
Yeah, vaccination stay. Yeah, it wasn't due to the movie. Yeah, that was vaccination status.
Hold on. CBS stated that like he was removed off the list due to his it was actually due to his controversial statements and actions. So technically speaking, like yeah, like that was a thing. So but so I'd say get Colin to cut from like say that to about when I'm about to clap, and then we can just go
Yeah,
back into right. So just there. All right. Anyways, so like obviously there is a big list of players that like we do want to keep our eye on and everything.
mhm.
Um, and then we'll go from there. But ideally speaking, like there is a number of names should should raise some eyebrows in this situation. So
Totally.
yeah, like again, just going back to this whole thing, it's like I said, this is NBA 75 list all over again. So like, number of names got put on, number of names got left off, and like number of people were cheesed for it. I was one of them. I'm not gonna lie, Dwight Howard should have been on that list. But then again, that's just me. What do I know? Like I've been watching basketball since the 1990s, so it is what it is. All right. Anyways, speaking of Florida, they're getting an outdoor hockey game within the next little while, and I'm fuming about this. I'm genuinely fuming because like in a state where like it doesn't even get colder than like say 10 degrees Celsius, you're getting an outdoor hockey game. Are you kidding me? Like, are you genuinely kidding me right now? Like,
I mean, it is a change from Boston or Chicago, right? But I mean, I totally get it. Um, you know, why are you hosting games in places where it doesn't typically snow? But this is probably bald man Bettman. This is probably his way to expand the game to show it to more people. And I guess too because they are your Stanley Cup champions. I mean, it does kind of make sense, but from like a meteorological standpoint, no, it literally makes no sense.
So
like let me say this before we go any further. It, you guys know about like say the NBA Christmas Day games, right? Where it's like say certain teams, certain markets get Christmas Day games, and then like other teams get left off.
mhm.
For example, like the Raptors had to wait like 18 years for a second Christmas Day game, and then we basically got slapped by Boston literally on that particular day, and we didn't even get a jersey for it. At least I don't think.
No, I don't think we did.
No.
But like the fact that Toronto had to wait like nearly 20 years just to get a Christmas Day game is kind of insane in itself. And like again, I empathize with the fact that like every team does deserve an outdoor game, but not every site, not every city deserves one. And you know what? Like the fact that they're playing at Miami Marlins Park, where it's essentially warm in the city of Miami. There's no snow in the state of Florida in any way, shape, or form, and yet still they're getting an outdoor game. When you have one of the warmest climates in all of the continental United States, you're basically right next to Cuba. You're more likely to get hit by a tidal wave than to have an outdoor hockey game in Florida.
So Florida has had snow, but it's been very rare. You're right. It's a very uncommon thing to have snow in Florida. But I'll say I do wonder about this. I do wonder now. We've come a long ways when it comes to ice treatment and how to keep ice cold in artificial stadiums. So sure, you could pull it off, but my thing with this is that I this game is gonna have to be played in the evening. Like you can't. We saw what happened when you had the Lake Tahoe games where the ice was melting at Lake Tahoe and the ice was chipping
Mhm.
up. So
Yeah.
this is gonna have to be a game, a prime time game. Be it if it's gonna be a Winter Classic or a Stadium Series game. It can't be a
Mhm.
midday game. It's gonna have to be a game in the evening to preserve ice quality.
No, I fully agree with that. But again, like the sheer insanity of this is just outright mind-boggling at this point. Like, I mean, you could probably do it in like Nashville, Tennessee around this time of year, right? Where at least like say the temperatures.
Going back to what Avery said about the new advancements in technology and keeping space cold, I agree that they should do this at night, but something is telling me just because it's Florida, they're going to fuck it up.
Yo,
I,
blame
I don't
August.
know. I don't know if it's gonna fall into Florida man entries that we we find on Google, but
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to fall into that lore of well, Florida's going to Florida.
Ideally speaking, at this point though, like this whole scenario is just a complete and utter mess because it's like we nearly lost it with Vegas having an outdoor game at one point or
You
another.
no, you guys. I wanted to get an outdoor game. That's y'all. I wanted to get an outdoor game in Vegas. I want to see that one happen. That's on. That's y'all. That's the Dave Barnett take.
Okay, first off, do not put me in that line of fire because right now I will slap your peanut head ass. Like, yo, calm down. That's number one. Number two, there are certain markets that cannot handle outdoor games. I mean, LA was a stretch as it was at Dodger Park or Dodger Stadium. And even then, it's like that was cool in itself. But like there are certain aspects of like say certain things that could not work in that scenario. Lake Tahoe, obviously, like when everything was melting to hell, like you had to play those games in the evening. But you know what? Like they made it work the same way. Florida is something you cannot do with artificial ice in that regard because like Florida is just too warm and too humid of a climate to literally have an ice hockey game. That shit will melt within 2 seconds. But then again, what do I know? I'm just a black man with some common sense.
You know, you know what? I do want to see the attempt. I'm not anti Florida, but I am very much, hey, it's got to be a game held at night. I see your best chance of making this work is at night, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. 7:30 start time, as possible to make it work, because this cannot be a midday game. It can't be a midday game. Make it a 7 p.m. game. Make it prime time. Enjoy your New Year's Day evening, whatever. That's why I think it can work the best.
Ideally speaking, like no, don't even bother doing it at like 7 o'clock. Do it at like 9:30. Like I'm not even joking when I say this. Do it at 9:30 because at least then it's like you still have the ability to like literally have the temperature drop to a certain point where like the ice can actually hold, especially within a Miami, especially within a Florida climate. So
Now, the only thing I will say about going too late is you're smack dab in the middle of bowl season for football. That's the one thing.
I
And
get
and
that, but at the
that's the
same
one thing.
point in
Yeah.
time, it's like you know what you're going to have like what's the lesser of two evils here? Because like obviously I know the whole the college bowl system will obviously be or no the college bowl subdivision will always still have precedent, but at the same point in time, it's like if the NHL is planning to do this, they really have to talk to the NCAA about this and try and figure this out immediately. Because like with the whole college football playoff system now, it's like not every bowl game like every bowl game is now basically like under heavy scrutiny because like it can either be like a college football quarterfinal or a college football semifinal at that point. And if something is happening in Miami around that time or like in the state of Florida around that time, like we say within the next year or two, it's like there goes the NHL's plans for having an outdoor game in Florida. Why not just do it in Columbus where it's like say Ohio is like literally one of the perfect climates for you to do something, you
And
know?
and you are getting a game. So yeah. So this year. So yeah. So next year. So we'll learn about the bowl game schedule for next year. Depending. But yeah. But so just give a primer in terms of hypothetical. Give people an idea of what bowl game times are like on New Year's Day. So
Mm-hmm.
usually either on January 1st or second is when you have the Rose Bowl, and the Rose Bowl start time is usually around 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. local, 4 p.m. Pacific time, so 7 p.m. So
Mm-hmm.
there is possibly a level of clashing, but there's no real. I mean, it's gonna be tough either way because you're probably if you want to play that game in January, pick your poison with a bowl game. But maybe it could be a situation where the NHL says, "Hey, we want to avoid bowl game season entirely," so they say move it a month and make it a Stadium Series game that doesn't get played until February. So that could be in play too, I think.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to note that,
Hmm.
say, Florida, like, say, the fact that Florida is potentially getting an outdoor game within that time frame, but like, same point in time, it's like, are you going to get enough fans and seats to actually be able to do that? You know what I mean? And like, they're trying to do it at Miami, like the Miami Marlins Stadium as it is.
Yeah,
So
Lone Depot.
yeah. So I mean, technically speaking, that's not even an outdoor stadium. That's a covered stadium at that point. So like, what do you do in that situation? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many messed up variables in that situation. But again, what do I know in this situation? You know what I mean? Gary Bettman, your bald head strikes again.
Well,
Jesus.
that's on Bettman. That's just owners looking to that's owners looking to invest. That's on Bettman. That's owners trying to see because the ownership, the board of governors, they see the outdoor game formula as there's still more juice to squeeze out of an outdoor game, and more owners want to have their own outdoor game. So, from a business standpoint, I get it. If you're an owner, you see what an outdoor game can do because it's all about it, in more large parts about the community, bringing fans
Mhm.
out, making an event. So I get that. There's still juice to squeeze because there are still a lot of teams that have yet to have an outdoor game, and markets want to have this.
No, that's fair. But again, if the league really wanted to make its money, like the fact that we have not had a Toronto Montreal Heritage Classic, or at least say have a Ranger, no, have a Rangers Boston, or say even like a Detroit Colorado, or I don't even know, but again I don't know, or a Rangers LA, um, or sorry, a Rangers Kings outdoor game, or even a Winter Classic between say either of those teams. Like the fact that those matchups have never happened within the Winter Classic as of yet is still absolutely insane. And like from a money standpoint, like it's like you have missed out on multiple opportunities for that. Because it's like you've had a Boston Montreal, you've had Chicago Detroit, you've had what else have you had? You've had Toronto Detroit for a while. You had Montreal and Calgary. Montreal and no, Montreal's only played like what, two or three of them at most.
Montreal playing Calgary Heritage, yeah, Heritage Classic. That was the game. Yeah, they played Heritage
Yeah,
Classic.
that was the very first one.
No, it was Montreal. Edmonton was first one. Commonwealth Stadium.
Was it Montreal? Yeah, it was Montreal Edmonton.
Yes,
Sorry.
it was the
So
first
like,
Heritage Classic. Yeah.
yeah, and like you had the NHL 100 Classic between Ottawa and Montreal, but like you have never had a Battle of Ontario where it's like you could literally open up the Rogers Center and literally have a Toronto Ottawa game right then and there, or like you could have had an Edmonton Calgary, unless I could be wrong, and we could have had an Edmonton Calgary by now.
We did. Yep, last year at Commonwealth.
Yeah. Okay. So my apologies for that, folks. Um, there are so many matchups that could have happened
Mm-hmm.
in this situation, and it's like you don't have, again, a Colorado Detroit would have been insane. You would have had an LA New York, or sorry, a New York Rangers Los Angeles Kings one. I feel like that would make a lot of money. Chicago and Minnesota, that would have been dirty in itself, right? Again, that would work. That would significantly work. A Nashville Tampa Bay, considering either of those two teams are like say within say like I guess geographical reach of one another. Tennessee and Florida, like obviously those two states hate each other at one point or another, right? That would have been a great matchup in itself. Um, the list goes on and on in this situation, but the fact that like I said, the fact that two twos like you have, oh sorry, let me rephrase that. You had a Nashville Tampa Bay. Like that happened 3 years ago. So again, I apologize for that, and I gotta make a correction on that. Um there's just too many teams. There's just too many matchups that have not happened while this experiment is still going on. And yet the fact that like say we're still short of a Toronto Montreal game, when that's basically like your quintessential outdoor game between two of the most storied rivals in NHL history. Like the fact that a game between those two hasn't happened yet outdoors is insane. But again, I digress in this moment here. So, I mean, if Florida's gonna get an outdoor game, like I'm pretty sure Florida's going to probably win another Stanley Cup before Canada gets another expansion team in this bitch. So we'll see. Anyways, on that note, we're going to end this episode right now before I start cussing a storm. So, Avery and Troy, thank you for coming through tonight. Also want to thank you, the listener, as well. You know, you have put up with us for a good portion of the season, and like obviously speaking, like we can't do this without y'all. So thank you very much. And once again, as we always say, thank you for letting us grace the space in between your head top. We will be back with another episode before we disappear for Christmas. We will be taking a couple weeks off, so we will be back we will be back within the second week of January. So don't miss us too much. Until next time, folks, deuces.
Hey, wait, Dave. And make sure you drink your water.
Drink your water, mind your business. That's all it is.
Thank you.